Welcome to Books You Gotta Check Out here on Dreamers Defy. It's where we talk about books, well, honestly, you need to check out. Today we're talking about Absolute Faith, by Mary Haarmeyer and Craig Beeman. Now, some fires don't end when the flames go out. Some of them, they stay with you. And we tend to think of fire as something external, something you can see, something you can fight, something you can put out. But absolute faith isn't really about those fires. It's about the ones that follow you home. At the center of the story is Ryan. He's a firefighter, someone trained to run towards danger when everyone else is running away. Someone who knows exactly what to do when everything's burning. But outside of that world, outside of the sirens and the smoke, Ryan is carrying something heavier. A past he hasn't made peace with, a loss that never really settled. A weight that doesn't just go away because time passes. And eventually, life forces him to stop running. And after an accident pulls him offline, Ryan is forced to return home, back to the place where everything started. And maybe more importantly, the place where everything broke. Because going home isn't always safe. And that's where the story finds its footing. Not in the fire itself, but in what happens when there's nowhere left to hide from it. Now, one reviewer described the emotional weight of the story like this. They said, "Themes of trauma, loss, and healing touched my heart." And that's really the center of it. Not action, not spectacle, but healing. Now, the book doesn't ignore the external stakes, the wildfire scenes, the danger, the urgency. They're written in a way that puts you right there. You can feel the pressure, the heat, the decisions being made in seconds. Another reviewer said it felt like being in the midst of firestorms. But that's what makes a story work. Is Ryan isn't a hero in the way you expect. He's not polished. He's not emotionally open. He doesn't have the answers. He avoids. He carries anger. He pushes things down instead of dealing with them. And that makes him feel real. As another reviewer put it, a firefighter with a tragic past who struggles with anger and pain. And that's where the story begins to shift. Because eventually, you run out of ways to avoid yourself. At its core, Absolute Faith is a story about faith. But not the kind that comes easy. Not the kind that solves everything. The kind that shows up when nothing else does. And there's a line that captures the tension. That line, God never promises a reason for the suffering. And that idea sits at the center of the story. Because the question isn't, why did this happen? The question is, what do you do now that it has? And that's where the story slows a little and where it starts to matter. Because Ryan isn't just fighting external fires anymore. He's being forced to face the internal ones, the ones that don't go out on their own. And this is where the book separates itself. It doesn't rush the process. It doesn't hand you easy answers. It lets the tension sit. It lets the character struggle. And because of that, when changes start to happen, it feels earned. Stories like this don't work because they're dramatic. They work because they're honest. Because most people don't transform overnight. Most people carry things longer than they should. They avoid things longer than they should. And they only change when they finally can't anymore. Absolute Faith isn't about a man who has everything figured out. It's about a man who doesn't. What happens when he finally has to face that? Because some fires, they don't destroy you. They reveal what's left. And some stories are worth finishing.